We started from scratch, back from war, with nothing to lose. We fought to learn, to build the foundation of our future. But it was washed away. From the waters we rose, the college that wouldn't die. From the Oregon ship to the shores of Portland, we flooded the city to serve, to improve the lives of our families, our community, our city, our country. We are thirsty for more knowledge, for change, opportunities, justice. And when they don't listen, when they push back, we stand up to show the world how, to prove that we make a difference. And we will continue to learn, to fight for what we believe in.
Welcome to the fourth and final day of the 2021 PSU Cleantech Challenge, coming live to you from Portland. And now for a message from the Associate Vice President of Research and Graduate Studies, Joseph Janda.
Hello and welcome to the 9th Annual PSU Cleantech Challenge. I'm Joseph Janda, Associate Vice President of Research and Graduate Studies at Portland State University, and I'm speaking to you from the campus of PSU in Portland, Oregon. Portland State University has been emboldening students and challenging the status quo in Portland for 75 years. Since our founding to serve veterans coming home from World War II, the university has been committed to meeting the needs of individual students and society as a whole. Since 1946, we've grown into Oregon's most diverse urban public research university. PSU is in the front line of developing new ideas, technologies, and programming that focus on addressing the major issues of the 21st century, and in support of these efforts, we've recently launched Propel PSU, a new initiative to foster innovation and the spirit of entrepreneurship across campus. Propel PSU has 3 core activities. The first is the Center for Entrepreneurship, where student innovators find the creative energy to expand their impact, explore new ideas, and solve big problems that benefit our community. The second is the Office of Innovation and Intellectual Property, where we work with faculty members, students, and staff to promote the use and increase the impact of PSU innovations. The third activity within Propel is the PSU Business Accelerator, where we support PSU and Oregon entrepreneurs by providing facilities, programming, and mentors while activating and engaging relationships with each other, PSU, and the entrepreneurship ecosystem. All of the Propel activities support PSU innovators with programs like the PSU Cleantech Challenge. The PSU Cleantech Challenge provides experiential learning for our students to explore what it is like to be inventors, innovators, and entrepreneurs while using technology to address big and contemporary challenges. During the last 90 days, PSU students have embarked on a journey to prototype an idea that will solve a problem affecting our environment, people's lives, and our community. The PSU Cleantech Challenge is a place where bold thinkers converge to consider the future, a place where students come ready to be challenged and explore new concepts, and it is where we do our level best to enable and activate the kind of creative energy that most of our students already have. Here in 2021, while we can't gather on campus with you, we want to encourage each of you to stay connected and follow the student innovators presenting today. Thank you so much for joining us here for our 9th Annual PSU Cleantech Challenge. I'd also like to thank all the people who made the Cleantech Challenge possible. Our student teams, judges, speakers, our interviewers who gave so generously of their time and insight, the staff from the Center for Entrepreneurship who worked so hard to make this virtual PSU Cleantech Challenge possible. And thank you to each of you who are joining us online as we celebrate the power of innovation and entrepreneurship at Portland State University.
Hi, my name is Juan Barraza. I'm the Director of Student Innovation at the Center for Entrepreneurship at Portland State. During the last 9 years, we have asked PSU students 2 questions. What can they build in 90 days with only $1,500? We have seen student teams coming to the Cleantech Challenge often with nothing more than an idea. They have come out of it with a real prototype of product that has a true potential to make a difference in the market and the world. Our students have developed inspired solutions for today's more pressing environmental problems around our communities and the world. They have developed new ways to grow food, innovative housing ideas, or new forms of transportation, to mention a few. While the competition is designed to provide an experiential learning opportunity for our students, many of them have decided to pursue the commercialization of their inventions. As of today, PSU Cleantech Challenge alumni have raised over $12.5 million, bringing high-paying jobs to our region and inspiring the next generation of PSU innovators and entrepreneurs. With our success as a program, every year we evaluate the areas we can improve. We recognize that we still have an opportunity to attract a more diverse group of students. For this reason, we're doubling down on our efforts to collaborate with organizations representing our BIPOC and LGBTQ community on campus and our region to create a more diverse pipeline of Oregon innovators and entrepreneurs. For us to continue to move forward, we need to acknowledge where we're coming from. Portland State University is located in the heart of downtown Portland, Oregon, in Multnomah County. Today, we honor the indigenous people whose traditional and ancestral homelands we stand on, the Multnomah, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Tumwater, Huatlala bands of the Chinook, the Tualatin Kalapuya, and other indigenous nations of the Columbia River. It is important to acknowledge the ancestors of this place, to recognize that we are here because of the sacrifices forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their descendants.
Hello and welcome. I'm Alex Grand, an entrepreneur and co-founder of Good Intent, a low-waste shop that offers sustainable alternatives to everyday essentials. And I'm the Student Inclusion Coordinator for the Graduate Business Programs at PSU, and a proud PSU alum. We are so excited to share today's program, which includes conversations with past PSU Cleantech Challenge alumni, Yesenia Gallardo Avila, Mark Ronay, Hugh Neri, and Skylar Pearson, and the final showdown of this year's Cleantech Challenge finalists. We're thrilled to present all of the teams and their efforts. The teams had about 90 days to design, prototype, test, and validate their Cleantech ideas. They have been working tirelessly while facing the additional challenges associated with the current health crisis. We are so thankful they were able to persevere and rise to the occasion to present some incredible prototypes. Before we get started with the next round of presentations, let's go over how the teams will be evaluated. Our panel of judges will be scoring each of the teams based on 4 categories to determine the overall winners. The 4 major categories are pitch, impact, prototype, and progress. Pitch, the ability to describe the problem, the solution, and the market opportunity, as well as team enthusiasm and motivation. Impact, could this team or solution have a substantial impact on the market, in the environment, or in people's lives? Prototype, the quality and completeness of the prototype, the ability to explain and demonstrate the technology and market opportunity. And progress, how much progress did the team make over the winter term? Did they meet their goals? And have they identified the next steps? Are their stated goals achievable? The judges will be looking at their progress via prototype, pitch, business model, and impact. Each team has received $1,500 in prototyping grants, and they will be competing for $1,500 for the first place team, $500 for the second place team, and $500 for the best prototype. 2 teams will be selected to represent Portland State at the Event or Finals this June. And each team will be receiving additional prototyping grants and will compete for $30,000 in prizes. The first team to join us today is Gener8. They are working to bring scalable ethanol-based generators to market. Their motivation is to bridge the gap between efficient power resources while also understanding that massive storage requirements often limit accessibility. We are joined today by team members Jacob Brower and Corelli Ramirez Gonzalez.
Hello, I'm Jacob Brower, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about to introduce Gener8 and my teammate Corelli Ramirez Gonzalez. We are Gener8, and we provide clean ethanol fuel cells. Shown on the screen is a rendering of one of our fuel cells. Climate change is here, and it's real, and everyone living in the West Coast saw firsthand this summer. This, coupled with the antiquated grid power system in the US, provides what we believe is a necessary update to the power system in the United States. There are issues with current renewable sources of power, like when the sun doesn't shine, there's no solar power. Baseload power is a main reason why we have stuck with fossil fuels for so long. However, we are developing a fuel cell system that is the only renewable energy source that can provide this baseload power to phase out the dependence on fossil fuels.
We provided algae to power solution for our customers. We have an energy solution that is not limited by the carbon efficiency limit, which is 37% for internal combustion engines and is 99% for our fuel cell.
We provide a ethanol-based platform off of algae. A standard commercial algae growth tube is shown on the right. Algae grows extremely quickly and can be grown pH values far higher than most other cells, which means that the algae doesn't get moldy. But algae are only half of the puzzle of fuel. We need to turn to one of our oldest cellular allies for the second half, which is yeast. We are combining algae sugar with yeast to make ethanol for our fuel cell. This comes at about a 60% efficiency, which is significantly better than most biomass system energy systems currently in use.
Here are two images of our test platform, loaded with a reference catalyst stack. This model is the standard fuel test used by labs all around the world. We are using a platinum black reference catalyst here, which we use to generate baseline data to compare our new modified catalyst to. This size system produces 4.3 volts just by flowing ethanol through it, with only the reference electrode. Our electrode surface area and reactivity is more efficient than any other one in the market.
There was some danger with this chemistry, so it all had to be performed in a professional lab. Fortunately, our team member Cody has access to one, so you're able to complete the synthesis without a hitch. Step one of the chemistry is to convert our raw platinum into chloroplatinic acid. Step two is to convert our chloroplatinic acid into an alloy with ruthenium, which we then embed on our carbon nanoscaffold. Normally, much more platinum is in the catalyst. However, the key in our fuel cell is a platinum replacement, a new carbon nanoscaffold, which is synthesized from porphyrin.
The platinum alloy is combined with the carbon-based material, and we finally have an efficient ethanol catalyst.
But before we get to step three, we should explain just how large this market already is. In the next 5 years, accelerated by the progress toward total renewable grid power, the backup and off-grid energy storage market will reach over $58 billion. We are extremely well situated to replace huge segments of this market because our system can replace all current applications without the need for restructuring existing workflows. And because ethanol is far easier to store than gaseous fuels like hydrogen, it makes our process easier to implement than hydrogen fuel cells. In addition, our system is much less flammable than gasoline and other biofuels. What we are looking forward to next is acquiring and modifying a standard pyrolysis furnace to complete step 3 in our process. This will complete the production of our catalyst, which is previous work has shown is far more efficient than existing catalysts. We will test what we create in our fuel cell stack against the existing carbon black catalyst.
We are excited to show our product off to potential customers soon and hopefully get some useful feedback on how we can make our system work better for them.
And now let me show you a video of a demo of our product.
The better the voltage output. So here we got this nice, this is when you're not pumping, this ratio down at the bottom left. You start pumping, you get this very clear voltage trend going up.
We can restart that.
Here's our Arduino, and we have
the voltage output. So here we got this nice,
and over here,
this is when you're not pumping. This ratio down at the bottom left.
We have some alligator clips.
You start pumping,
out of the fuel
you get this
cell.
very clear voltage trend.
Goes into this Arduino.
Going up.
There's an analog input on A0, and then there's V in for the power. So because we're getting voltage in, we're measuring the voltage off this device. So 1023, so on the left-hand side you can see this scale, and 1023 is 5 volts. And we're at 895, so we're at like 4 volts about. And the faster you pump, so we got over here, we got this syringe pump, and the faster you pump, the more voltage is coming out of our fuel cell right here. So you can see this, you know, steady upward trend.
Thank you. And now for some questions from the judges. What are the anticipated costs of the Gener8 technology compared to hydrogen fuel cells and at scale? Were you able to hear me this time? All right, we'll have to move on to the next segment. Thank you, Team Gener8. During the last 9 years, PSU Cleantech alumni have developed inspired solutions for many of today's pressing environmental issues. Some of them have launched new ventures, while others have continued with their professional careers. Let's see where some of them are now. We'll get started with Yesenia Gallardo Avila. She was part of ENTO Food, which was the winner of the PSU Cleantech Challenge 2016. She was interviewed by Vanessa Margolis, Portfolio Director of Virtue Lab.
Hi, this is Vanessa Margolis, and I'm getting ready to interview Yesenia. Yesenia, how are you today?
Good. I'm home, safe and sound and cozy, and just trying to block out the sound of my husband working only about 15 feet away.
Wow, that's some together time.
Yeah, sure is.
So I get the privilege of asking you questions about your experience with the Portland State University Cleantech Challenge, which it's so funny because I had initially forgotten about your experience in it, and you had to remind me of it when we spoke. So let's begin at the beginning. You are representing as an alumni of the Cleantech Challenge. Tell us a bit about the company that you were part of when you went through the program.
Yeah. So in 2015, my co-founder, Kenny Cloft, and I founded a company called POTA Foods. It was something that was born out of a graduate school project that we were really excited to launch. And so we came back to Portland and launched that here in, actually technically in Molalla, Oregon, which is where we had a cricket farm. So POTA Foods was a company that raised crickets, insects, for protein powder, and then we processed them into powder and sold that to different companies. It was a food safe ingredient meant for human consumption. So a lot of our challenges were around regulation and scaling up the operations. But that was how I first got introduced to the Cleantech Challenge when we came to Portland to build our company. I'm from Oregon, so we came back here. We heard about the competition through a mutual insect connection, who is an alum of the University of Oregon. And so we partnered with him and his company to enter the challenge and just share what we were doing, our passion for edible insect protein. And that's how we first connected with the challenge.
And what was the experience like for you? And specifically, any highlights or standout memories from that summer? I think it was over the summer.
Yeah. I think for us, it was always a great way to introduce ourselves to the Portland ecosystem. I think one of the strengths of the program is that it really kind of helps you dive headfirst into the local startup ecosystem. So it is a really welcoming community of folks, but you do kind of have to get some kind of entry point into it. And I think the exposure from the Cleantech Challenge, especially now, I think then it was known for in some circles, but now I think it's grown and has so much more statewide attention. And so I think it's a really great way to get on folks' radars, whether it's people that can help you along the way, which they will. Portland and the Oregon ecosystem in general is just really open arms to entrepreneurs, or it can help connect with other access to capital forms. That's also was really valuable for us, and just get more exposure for your company and your brand. And that was one of the key things that we took away from it.
And then after this experience, after you went through the Cleantech Challenge, what was your relationship with the PSU Cleantech Challenge after, as an alumni?
Yeah. I think for me, the entrepreneurship, so I'll back up a little bit. So it has always been driven by this desire to just see more representation of folks, whether it's women or underrepresented founders in this space. And that has become a big passion of mine. And I think the Cleantech Challenge has always been pretty intentional about being diverse and reaching out to folks. I've seen a lot more women come through the program, and then we have some really great companies that are women-led that have come out of PSU as well. And I really wanted to find a way to be more involved in the startup community. And so I started volunteering with the program for probably a couple of years after POTA. So after we participated, I was more of just like an informal mentor. So Juan would send some teams my way and I would help them either refine their business model or rethink or rework their pitch. And that was how I got connected with them. So for a couple of years, I mentored different teams. Some of them went on to do really well. And I would host workshops on pitch competitions. And then I actually joined the program formally as a program coordinator in, I think, 2019, maybe 2018. And I worked part-time with the program, helping develop it out and helping grow it into the Invent Oregon program, which is kind of the clean tech, but at a much larger footprint across the state, working with 20 plus universities and colleges and community colleges across the state. And that's always been something I'm really proud of, just the way that that program grew and could take what it is that the spirit of the PSU Cleantech Challenge developed and turn it into this just really respected, known program that has helped so many different startups and students. At the end of the day, not all the companies come out and go on to launch, but you have these students that come through stuff like this and they experience these completely different way of thinking and processing and executing and project managing. And that leaves them with very different skill sets that they can take on with them for the rest of their lives. And I love that just having been a part of that.
So if you encounter, say, a student or another young adult who says, I'm thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, what would you say to them?
Well, if they're in an Oregon University college or two-year college, then they should definitely check out the Invent Oregon program. That would be my number one suggestion. But I think the best thing to do with folks like that is to connect them with other people in the ecosystem. Again, Portland is an open door and folks are always willing to have a Zoom chat or a coffee virtual chat. And I think that gives people exposure on just the different entry points, things to consider from a business development standpoint, and just getting to know different funders in the ecosystem. I think that that's always a really good place for entrepreneurs to start. And then again, I mean, I think the advice that I would have given myself was to really figure out what that MVP is and making sure that it was well thought out and that there was like a clear roadmap for the next 3 months and the next 6 months and then the next 12 months, and making sure that those milestones were met, and being really, really disciplined about what they are and how we were going to get to the next endpoint.
And what are you doing now? Where are you on your entrepreneur journey?
Well, I feel like in my heart, I am always an entrepreneur. I always have weird side hustles. So I have a small business that imports mezcal, which is just a labor of love, and it's really fun. We work with smallholder producers in Mexico and import mezcal, which is a distilled spirit made out of agave. It's made in these very traditional ways, and that's really fun. And my full-time role is I work as a principal at a firm called Occam Advisors. So I work specifically with the family office there in venture. So I sit now sort of on the other side of the table as an investor, doing early stage deals in Latin America and then some in the US. It's been a really, really great journey to kind of go from the entrepreneurial side to the investor side, to the dark side. And I think eventually I'll return to building something. I know it's in my blood. And I think when you know, and things like the Cleantech Challenge can help you figure out if that's what you want to do. If that first project doesn't work out, if you kind of have the hunger for it, I think and that's something that it might be a lifelong journey for you to figure out whatever your venture is that's successful or is meaningful for you and fulfilling for you. But for now, it's been a really really great exposure and learning opportunity to sit on the investment side.
It's interesting because we have a fund at Virtue Lab, and I head up the entrepreneur support program. So I do the accelerator and all sorts of other programs to help entrepreneurs. And I actually really dislike when I have to be on the investment side and making the due diligence.
Yeah.
So we're about to wrap up, and I just wanted to see if there was any last item you wanted to share that I have not yet asked you about.
I would just say that the thing that I take away from moments like this is that if you really want to be an entrepreneur, moments and experiences, accelerators, or programs like the Cleantech Challenge are really helpful in building your confidence. Think of it as a testing field, not only for your product, not only for your pitch, not only for your MVP, whatever that looks like, but for you as a person to really test out a number of things. This is like the right time. The stakes are not as high as they could be after you're done with school, and the landscape and the pressures and the risks look different. So make sure that you think of every piece of this process as a testing ground. Do you have the right team? Are you thinking about the right customers? Are you even on the right path with whatever your product is? This is a great moment to iterate because you have such leeway, flexibility, and a little bit of funding to take risks and test stuff out. So I would just think of that in building whatever it is you're doing. You don't have to go into the program ready to impress and like have the winning pitch the moment you walk in. Think of it as a really like a playground for testing whatever it is you want to test, and then strengthen that. You'll have time to really refine that before the final competition.
Thank you so much, Yesenia. It was great to see you again.
Yeah, it was great to see you too, Vanessa. Hopefully we'll see each other in real life. Oh, so soon.
Yes.
Flux. Flux is eco-kinetic architecture that provides flexible accommodation for marketplace infrastructure, especially in rural communities. Farmers markets are a critical component of local economies all over the world. They provide a cost-effective retail opportunity for local farmers and makers while promoting sustainability by minimizing waste and pollution. It is also shown that proximity to farmers markets improves physical and mental health. So what's the problem? Farmers and makers in these communities are faced with not only the economic challenge of competing with corporate farms, but also sustainable market infrastructure is lacking and can be insufficient for local weather conditions. It is time to start providing progressive infrastructure that is worthy of these essential small town markets. To bring this idea to life, I chose to explore architectural solutions in my hometown of Dexter, Missouri. Dexter is an agricultural community that produces wonderful sources of produce, baked goods, art, and craft. The local farmers market is an essential part of this community. On the right, you'll see an image of my favorite market vendor, my 83-year-old great-grandmother, Bonnie Cooper. Bonnie spends her spring and summer days making incredible homemade bread and canned items for the weekly market. In the photo, you can see her vendor stall has only a single table and no rain or sun protection. This setup leaves Bonnie and many others without the opportunity to sell goods during rainy season. Accessibility is lacking. My proposed solution is a marketplace composed of Flux vendor pods that come together to create a permanent structure that supports farmers, makers, and consumers year-round. This is achieved using principles of flexible accommodation or multi-use accessibility, which includes modular furniture for transporting vendor goods under a vast structural span, and eco-kinetic response, which is the way the structure responds to the ecology surrounding it by directing wind, harvesting solar energy, and capturing rainwater. So now rainy days will become a public attraction rather than a nuisance. In this image on the left, you can see how the market currently exists in Dexter. The vendor setup is strenuous, costly, and provides no weather protection for consumers visiting the market. The two major competitors to the Flux Pod are the pop-up canopy and the average covered park pavilion, neither of which provide protected consumer space, flexible accommodation, or clean energy access. The vision for Flux Pods began in my sketchbook, then moved into the design phase in the form of diagrams, study models, and physical and digital prototypes that account for the real-world weather conditions that are specific to the site. Flux Pods provide multiple use cases. They accommodate markets, public gathering, and even pandemic-friendly outdoor workspace. The modular character of Flux Pods also provides adaptive scalability for different sites. The pods can tessellate with any number of adjacent pods to create a pavilion of any shape or size. In the past 90 days, traction has been gained through community awareness, market research, which has and market research, which has informed the current vision of Flux. The next steps in the continuation of Flux are to consult with professionals to develop the idea further and to continue it for my master's thesis. My ultimate goal is to promote sustainability in an exciting way that involves stakeholders, inhabitants, and provokes green development interest by everyone in the community. Eco-kinetic response for the Flux Pavilion will occur when weather conditions activate sensors that will deploy these shade canopies. Here, as the rain begins, the canopies unfold beneath the structure to leave room for airflow and ventilation. The Flux pods are activated when precipitation occurs. You can see that the rain is being funneled by the canopies into the center of 4 columns that become a visually exciting and interactive feature. Rain harvesting. From here, the harvested water is directed into underground tanks where it is captured, filtered, and then reused later for public facilities on site. When the pavilion is open on non-market days, the rain canopy is still open to become an interactive feature for the community. Solar energy harvesting. A timber grid shell structurally supports the array of Flux pods, which creates this overall pavilion. The panelized system holds a series of 60% transparent photovoltaic glass panels. These panels capture sunlight and turn it into electricity to be used for the people inhabiting the pods below. The timber grid shell is angled towards the south to provide maximum sun exposure for the solar panels. The grid arrangement allows for the modules to be scalable for potentially any site by easily tessellating. Now we'll see how the pavilions provide flexible accommodation for a variety of community members and potential events. Market space is provided on weekly market days where vendors can use the modular on-site furniture to arrange their products beneath deployable shades. Workspace is provided on non-market days for members of the community to use these solar-powered electric ports to power laptops and other devices. The pods can also be used as a public plaza on these off days where people can gather to socialize, kids can play, and maybe even dance in the rain. The current health crisis has devastated local economies. With Flux, we are aiming to help reduce the community hardship by creating a place that supports local businesses and provides interactive public space. Now let's take a virtual walk through the Flux market. This clip is showing a sunny day scenario where the rain has stopped, so the canopies retract and create an open air pavilion where the photovoltaic solar glass panels are collecting maximum sunlight and people can take advantage of the nice weather. Shades may be deployed during excessive sun exposure, but since they are below the panels, this does not affect solar energy harvesting. Flux. Flux is designed to provide a multifunctional place for all members of the community to come, gather, socialize, work, shop, or play, and safely contribute to the sense of community, local economy, and sustainable future for our planet. And remember, sustainable global impact begins with taking local action. Thank you all for your time and consideration.
Great presentation, Randy. You're making me hungry for fresh, locally sourced produce already. Could you share a bit more about the manufacturing process? And as you think about scaling, would the pods need to be manufactured locally, or can they be shipped and then assembled locally?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the whole idea behind the process is to have manufacturing, construction, and design to be implemented within that community, wherever the site may be. So that's like consulting with stakeholders and community members to sort of finalize this design process and designate manufacturing tasks to community members, and this can also be a learning experience for these rural communities who may not be exposed to certain green building technologies as it is currently. So this prototype sort of serves as that gateway for green building infrastructure in these rural communities.
Love that. Okay, one more question for you. If the vendors need refrigeration or an electric appliance, can they power that using the harvested power?
Yeah, definitely. So the solar harvesting will definitely accommodate refrigeration and such for weekly markets. And power can be stored and reused later to provide that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Randy.
All right, thank you.
Now we'll be hearing from Fashion in Action, a group working on techniques to turn recycled textiles into usable yarns. Their goal is to alleviate the massive amount of fabric waste sent to landfills each year by turning cotton fibers back into yarn for mill. They are developing new processes to take on various weaves and dyes. Employing a scalable model, they are working to change how the textile industry recycles. We are joined by Dorothy Howard, Emily Noneman, and Crystal Van Wyk.
All right, thanks, Alex. So we are Fashion in Action, otherwise known as FIA, and our mission is to eliminate textile waste and create a circular economy. So as mentioned, I'm Emily Noneman. I'm joined by my colleagues, Dorothy Howard and Crystal Van Wyk. Together, we bring a lot of different experiences, including experience in HR, channel sales, fish and wildlife, sustainable marketing, entrepreneurship, and production management. We're also all second-year MBA students here at PSU. First, I want to share a quick video with you that really drives the mission of FIA and gives you some context for our project. 80 billion new clothing items are purchased every year. 34,500 million pounds of textile waste went to landfills. 28% of people donate their unwanted clothing, but only 20% of donated clothing is resold. Unsold clothing gets shipped overseas, where it disrupts local economies or goes to landfills. FIA was founded to solve this problem. At FIA, we respin discarded cotton into new yarn, and our yarn creates new recycled cotton fabric. FIA eliminates textile waste, creating a circular economy in the textile industry. I'll hand it over to Dorothy, who will tell you a little bit more about our process.
Thank you, Emily. Now I'll show you how we turned unwanted textiles into recycled yarn. Using the Cleantech funds, we purchased equipment to make our own recycled cotton products from discarded cotton we've collected. Our prototype uses ordinary items to create recycled yarn, but we would scale this process up with industrial machinery in order to create a larger impact. So let's take a look at the steps we took to make our recycled yarn. We cut up an old t-shirt into small pieces and added to the blender with plenty of water. We blended the fabric for about a minute. We knew from our research that when we started to see individual fibers emerge, the fibers are coming apart and are ready for the next step. Once the fiber dried, we used cotton carders to arrange the fibers. We knew the fibers were ready for spinning when they are fluffy and soft. The fibers are done carding and emerge as a round log shape, as seen here. We used our fingers to tease out a small amount at one end and started twisting the fibers into a small yarn. Then we used the spinner to create our final product. Now Crystal will talk about our paper prototype.
Thank you, Dorothy. So in addition to our yarn prototype, we made an art paper that could be used for that we could use for fibers that we can't turn into yarn. Knowing that there are some papers made out of cotton, we experimented and created a sheet of paper made out of denim jeans. So we started with some well-used work jeans that had no useful life left in them. We cut them up, just like with the yarn, and blended them until the individual fibers emerged. The fibers were placed into a container with water, and we scooped out an even layer of the fibers. We then sponged off the excess water and placed it into the press that we made. Now here's the final denim paper on the left, and on the right is another paper we made by mixing shredded paper into our denim fibers. By doing this, we can reduce even more waste. I'll now hand it back to Dorothy to tell you more about the market potential.
Thank you, Crystal. The global ethical fashion market was valued at $6.35 billion in 2019 and is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 8.7%. This is because consumers are becoming more and more aware of the damages from the fast fashion industry. We will need to weave the sustainability story into our brand, as well as the brands we'll be selling through. We'll do this by creating a kit that will co-market with companies in a win-win situation. Some Portland brands who have expressed interest in our product include Portland Garment Factory, Old Brother, and Dovetail. And now I'll pass back to Crystal. She'll go over our finances and future plans.
Thank you, Dorothy. So our financial projections show at year 3, we'll have $2.5 million in revenue and $708,000 total costs for a net income of $1.76 million. At this point, we can pay back our investors and start investing in more machinery to scale even further. By our third year, we'll have saved 4,000 pounds of pesticide from being used, 1.7 trillion liters of water, and 380,000 t-shirts from the landfill. Cotton is one of the most chemically intensive crops in the world, and the fashion industry is the second largest source of pollution, which is why this is so important. In the future, we plan to expand into strong U.S. textile manufacturing areas such as Los Angeles and New York City. Now we'd be happy to take any questions from the judges. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Fashion in Action team. I love that you're working to address such an important environmental issue. All right, time for some Q&A from the judges. So you mentioned combining your recycled fibers with virgin fibers. What ratio do you expect to be using for your final yard product?
So we are expecting right now to use 50-50. But in the future with more R&D, we expect to decrease the amount of raw material that we'll have to blend in.
Okay, great. Can you please comment about your competitors? Where will you be able to position your mixture of recycled yarn and paper? And then what will the target application be for that composite?
So we found that when we were interviewing different designers that no one had really even heard of anyone recycling cotton, only recycling synthetic materials, and very few even knew about that. So our competitors are overseas and not well known. So we think that with our co-marketing strategy, where we help them gain visibility with that story, that we can really position ourselves to have a strong presence.
Great. And then what about the paper material?
We're planning to use that for it to become zero waste. So whatever we can't use for the yarn, then we would use to create the paper with. So our main strategy is with the yarn.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, FIA team. Back in 2016, Mark Ronay developed a highly conductive thermal material that would allow for heat harvesting and can be used as printable fluid to power electronic devices in soft robotics and wearables. Since then, he has taken liquid wire to new heights. Get caught up with Mark and liquid wire.
And I'm here today with Mark Ronay. Mark Ronay is the CEO and founder of Liquid Wire, and he is an alum for the Cleantech Challenge in 2016. Mark, great to see you.
It's great to see you again, too. It's been a few years.
It's been crazy. 5 years already since we met, and it's great to get connected with you. And I know you went through the Cleantech Challenge. As an alum, it would be interesting to hear your experience as what happened when you went through Cleantech, and what was your journey during those 3 months. And Cleantech used to be in the fall, in September, right? So you invested your whole summer developing your prototype. So tell us more about your experience of building Liquid Wire, Cleantech, and your journey during those times.
Happily, yeah. It seems like a distant memory now, 5 years ago, but it's really, I think, where we got our start as a company. It was the first event I did that kind of put us on the map. Let me get my own head where we were. So 2016, I was a student at Portland State University, working on a piece of pretty interesting research. And I didn't quite know what to do with it, except that people were interested and it looked valuable. And what we were working on was a different way to make PCBs, so printed circuit boards, using a very exotic material, a liquid metal conductor that we could print onto low melting point plastics and make stretchable electronics with. And it was really an academic exercise that I wanted to translate out into a commercial opportunity. And Cleantech was a great vehicle for doing that, particularly because we did have a pretty clean technology. PCB is gross. It takes a lot of chemicals to process it. It's very hard to recycle. By participating in Cleantech and getting the kind of mentorship available at the accelerator, we were really able to focus our argument on how we were addressing our technology into the market and where our values lay, which was not something I was used to thinking as an engineer. I was just build from the ground up. I can do this. It's neat. It must be valuable. Cleantech really refined my thinking on how to talk about value propositions to people who aren't engineers. And then, of course, going through it and coming up with actual physical prototypes and presentation was just crucial practice for everything you need to do running a business. I mean, all you're doing is presenting and promoting your technology, and trying to translate between what you think is cool as an engineer into what the market actually needs and what people want, and what real problems exist, particularly when it comes to environmental sustainability and manufacturing, which is just often talked about and a large preoccupation that gets serious investment dollars by most major companies. Yeah, it's a very valuable experience. I'm happy to answer anything specific about.
Talking about growth, so now you also understand the nuances of raising capital in different types of forms. Could you tell us how much you raised altogether for the company? What is the next step?
Yeah, so altogether we've raised very close to 13 million, most of that in a $10 million Series A. And that's probably the most intimidating part going into entrepreneurship is how are people going to give me money? Like, how do I convince them to do that? And there's a lot of kind of jargon and tradition around that from an engineering background you're not necessarily familiar with, although the Business Accelerator PSU can tell you all the basics very easily. We initially raised, I initially got hung up on the distinction between an LLC and a C Corp. And these are the kind of things you need to get real comfortable with, even coming from a technical background, starting a company. They ultimately matter less than you might think. Like, from my own engineering embedded systems background, is like the difference between using a I2C versus an SPI bus. Like, well, they're different, but it's still going to move data down that bus. The basic principles are the same. So early on, I had formed an LLC because basically I wanted more control and didn't like the restrictions from a C Corp. Doesn't matter. We're a C Corp now. I raised initial money through convertible notes, which I think is the easiest way to raise small amounts of capital in the beginning. And anything less than $1 million is a small amount. It's just important to know things are more expensive than you might consider. And that would be a big thing I'd recommend to people. Is I wound up scrapping quite a lot in the early days, doing everything on a shoestring budget, and it's not fun. It's not fun to do after a couple of years. So really setting up that business case up front and doing so in a way that can attract a large amount of investment. You're basically trying to set up for the investment partner to justify to themselves and to their partners that it's worth putting some millions of dollars into your enterprise. And it can be hard to figure out how to do that exactly, but you need to make a good market case. And then building a team actually helps a lot. Early on, I was solo. It's not sole founder startups are actually not as attractive as team startups for most investors. As I started to build out my team and recruit more senior people, that's when it really got easier to raise funds. And we went through to a conversion to a C Corp, which was necessary to raise large amounts of venture capital through an equity transaction. So that'd be a Series A, or initially we did a friends and family common round. That's what we called it. It wasn't actually friends and family. It was local angel investors for the most part. And then closed professional investment just April of last year, $10 million Series A, which was an equity transaction. So Deerfield Management is our investor, and they purchased a portion of our company and sit there as our major investor, helping us get into the medical market.
Well, congratulations. That's a no small feat, going from fresh out of school, taking a deep dive into building a company, and where the success you guys found right now. Mark, we appreciate catching up with you. It's great to see you again. Congrats on the success, Liquid Wire. We're looking forward to hearing you more of your stories, your journey, and seeing Liquid Wire grow. And can't wait to find it and and one of the embedded devices that will coming up in the market soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will be welcoming Timber Recycling, a team developing new methodologies for grading construction lumber to expand its reuse. By using a grading system approved by the state of Oregon for reclaimed timbers, this team is looking to expand how these precious resources can be used. Their work will help to reduce massive construction waste and the ecological burden of the timber industry. Please welcome Vanessa Hammond and Natalie Hutchinson.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here today. We are Team Timber Recycling and are excited to share our idea with you. I'm Natalie Hutchinson, here with Vanessa Hammond.
It is undeniable that we are facing a crisis of resource consumption in America today. As designers and builders, we are the decision makers about the way raw material is used to build structures. The focus of our project is to design a system that changes a linear system of consumption of raw building materials into a sustainable and cyclic network that creates markets for materials headed for the landfill. The benefits of reusing timber greatly outweigh the costs. Several benefits include reducing the carbon footprint of a build, conserving resources, extending landfills, and minimizing pollution. Last year, I came across an article on Bloomberg Green that reads, "Wind turbine blades can't be recycled, so they're piling up in landfills." That headline grabbed my attention and highlighted one of the large barriers to recycling materials. Many materials can be recycled, but there is no market for the materials. The article was correct about the mounting problem of expired fiberglass blades being buried in Wyoming and the challenges surrounding breaking down structures that outsize the wing of a Boeing 747. The article stated that 8,000 wind turbine blades will be removed in each of the next 4 years. Continuing on business as usual will exacerbate devastating effects on the environment. Demand for sawn lumber has driven prices up a staggering 188% due to shortages caused by COVID-19 quarantine-induced home improvement projects. New research finds that allowing forest regrowth to happen naturally can absorb 23% of global carbon emissions each year. Since the turn of the 20th century, more than 3 trillion board feet of lumber have been sawn in the United States. Much of it is still residing in existing structures. As infrastructure in North America ages, there will be increasing opportunities to reclaim materials from building deconstruction.
Introducing the T3 block. Our solution allows for nearly 100% of timber to be recycled from wood frame structures.
The members are designed to snap together with no additional tools or equipment needed. When assembled, the connector converts tensile force into compressive force, holding each member securely in place, similar to the mechanism of a finger trap toy. Assembly of one T3 block takes less than 5 seconds. Assembly of a typical wood-framed wall measuring 8 feet by 8 feet would take approximately 15 minutes. This is compared with a 22 to 25-minute cycle time for the same build with an experienced framer. Implementing the T3 block means that specialized tools and nails are not required for assembly. The good news is that material scientists, such as the ones in Bothell, Washington at Global Fiberglass Solutions, have found viable solutions to recycling composite materials such as fiberglass and carbon fiber. GFS has created a material called eco-poly pellets that can be used in injection molding processes, extrusion processes, and more. The last step is to create a market to utilize these recycled mediums. Demand drives production. By creating a viable product for mass production that increases demand for both recycled timber and eco-poly materials, more economic power is given to the industries that are innovating to accommodate recycled materials. While the T3 block is a small innovation, this is a large market opportunity to sway an industry that continues to rely on raw materials.
Really cool concept. That's a direct quote from the judges, and I have to agree. So I have a couple questions for you. Can these designs scale in size to accommodate larger cross-laminated timber boards that would be used in larger building construction?
Yeah, we plan on scaling it up from here. So we're starting at a smaller scale with residential construction, and then hopefully later on we're going to build into larger structures.
Great. Okay, second question. What pros and cons are present in structures framed with the T3 block versus traditional framing?
So I can answer this one, Natalie. So with the T3 block, you're kind of replacing the use of nails for these connections. So in a traditional connection between, say, a post and a sill plate, you would need between like 4 and 7 nails, so 40 to 70 cents, especially if the workers are over nailing, which is fairly common today. And nailing into pieces of wood can cause it to split and can also allow just like water damage and pest damage. So it's protecting the wood, and you can reuse the wood and the pieces in the future.
Great. Thank you so much, Timber Recycling. Okay, our final presentation today will come from Living Education Center, a group integrating biomimicry into design for education and health benefits. They are developing construction techniques that pull from biological structures in nature to create holistic and engaging spaces. Joining us now is Montse Vasquez Fonseca.
Hi, everyone. My name is Montserrat Vasquez Fonseca, founder of the Living Education Center, New Childhood Learning Through Urban Farming with Nature. How can the architecture of schools integrate urban farming and nature in their design for the future of the children they serve? Around the world, the typology of educational schools presents a dilemma in that it does not effectively address the environment in its approach to architectural design, thereby reinforcing the disconnect between humans and the environment which sustains them. Educational buildings which enclose children, separating the indoor from the outdoor environments, cause negative effects. We know that climate change, food insecurities, and issues of health and well-being will negatively affect the future of children, yet they are taught to rely on technology and lack hands-on experience in a multisensory environment. This has a rippling effect not only on children, but also on their families, friends, and communities. The architectural design of schools needs to offer humans a connection to the farms and nature of their environments. The Living Education Center is a school for kindergarten through 12th grade, serving BIPOC students coming from low-income families and communities. My research shows many common issues that can negatively impact the future of children. The schools that serve these children are not designed to connect their indoor and outdoor environments. I am proposing a new, unique school design which will cultivate a more healthy and sustainable approach to indoor and outdoor environments. I propose solving this dilemma with a unique educational building supported by an architectural setting which connects students to their environment and designing an innovative prototype. With the design of the school setting focused on the environment, I will utilize aspects of biophilia and biomimicry. I also will create a new indoor environment which incorporates natural sunlight, open space, and green space. It will also include new outdoor spaces which promote a sustainable, healthy, natural garden environment. Biomimicry is the imitation of the natural world in architectural design and will bring harmony to the structure of the building. The prototype will include agricultural technology, sustainability practices, and a reconnection of children to their natural surroundings. This new school will provide a rich, multisensory environment where children grow up learning about and participating in ecological, agricultural, and natural environments. It is my belief that children will thrive with organic sensory tools, working with their bodies to discover the natural ethos, capturing their spirit, brain power, and education in one place, the Living Education Center. The outdoor education market in the U.S. is estimated to be at $1 trillion by 2027. I am planning to market the Living Education Center to any district looking to build a new school. I am also planning to work with the Department of Education, architects, designers, engineers, and municipalities to incorporate living education designs in planning and building future educational facilities in schools. Living Education is aiming to create a new trend where our future schools are designed blending biomimicry, outdoor education, and the culture of the future generations of students in our communities while nurturing for an environmental-driven architecture design. During the last 90 days, I invested time to conduct my research around how to integrate the shape of the monarch caterpillar cocoon utilizing biomimicry design. I have developed the initial building designs, selected a potential site, and constructed an early stage mock-up of a section of the building to explore feasibility. After the Cleantech Challenge, I am planning to continue refining the building designs as I take into account the different uses for classrooms, libraries, and outdoor spaces. The goal of the Living Education Center is to create a new architecture design for our schools of the future that will nourish the leaders, scientists, and engineers of the future and develop their inclination of utilizing earth-friendly science and engineering. Thank you.
Thank you, Monse. Okay, time for more Q&A from our judges. They said, we would enjoy working in such a building. Do you envision utilizing this design for offices, libraries, or other uses?
Well, my goal at this point is to show my prototype as a school. I'm thinking it will have libraries and other ways to connect with the community, but my interest doesn't really lie in, let's say, office buildings and those sort of prototypes. I'm thinking more education is important. BIPOC students deserve the education that I'm going to provide for them in the natural environment.
Okay. Are there any particular barriers that you're concerned about to make it a reality?
Yeah, great question. For me, this whole process of design, it's been challenging. I've been asking around the community, trying to think about designing, for example, a classroom. The typical classroom you see now, K through whatever grade, it's square. I'm imagining more of a circular classroom, a connection being able to be made through eye contact, seeing each other, students having that bonding ability. So my design for the future, I think, could really spread worldwide. I think any school could use this design.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Monse.
Sure, thank you.
Hi, so I am excited to be here today with Skylar Pearson and Hugh Neary, who are the founders of Nexgarden, a company that went through the Cleantech Challenge several years ago and has been doing great things since. Welcome to Hugh and Skylar. And would love to hear just a little bit to start about what Nexgarden is and what you do with your company.
Yeah, of course. So Nexgarden is a ag tech company, and we are working on building indoor vertical farms that are low operational costs, high efficiency. Our intention is to be able to bring indoor farming into commercial agriculture.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about your experience with the Cleantech Challenge. It was back in 2017, with the before times. So obviously a very different world than we're living in right now. But tell us a little bit about what it was like going through that program and what some of your memories were.
Participating in the Cleantech Challenge was extremely fun, first of all. Second of all, we learned so many things. We had so many different workshops and seminars, and learned really how to build a business with most of the people who we were working with also in the Cleantech Challenge not knowing how to start a business at all. A lot of people were engineers with very few actual business students involved. And so we really got to learn alongside people just like us who were starting without knowing much about the business side of things at all.
Yeah, I think the whole process was so much fun and totally unexpected. I think we went into it not really knowing what we were getting into. And I remember when we got accepted after our first pitch, we were like, oh my God, we're gonna make something now. And going through all of that was so enjoyable, and coming out the other side and eventually winning at Invent Oregon and moving through the Cleantech was, I mean, it was life-changing.
So how's your company doing now?
Things are going pretty well for us, given the situation of the present times. We made a decision back in kind of the end of 2019 to put a pause on some of the tech that we had been developing and lean more into just farming operations. We've been trying to build up a stable revenue stream for our business. And so we built out a container farm. We have a 40-foot shipping container, and we grow leafy greens. And we're selling those at farmers markets around Portland, including the PSU market. So come get some greens. And things are going pretty well for us once we get that revenue stream established and it's reliable. We want to transition back into our tech development, likely fundraise, the whole deal.
And I'll add that we, even though we switched over to really focusing on farm operations and having a revenue stream by selling greens, we've still been a part of two, actually I think 3 capstone teams in the past year, 2 in the engineering department and 1 in the business school. And that's been super helpful to keep us rolling in terms of tech development.
How have you paid for the cost of all of the tech development up to this point?
Up till this point, we have received some non-dilutive funding and then been primarily bootstrapped. We collectively, through the Cleantech Challenge and Invent Oregon, received around $20,000. That was a lot of money for us and gave us the opportunity to make the decision of whether or not we wanted to continue on with building this business that had sort of snowballed for us. And we did move forward with that. In early 2019, we received a grant from Business Oregon, their Innovation Council, for $74,000, and that money was used to build our beta farm prototype. So it's a small scale version of what our full farms are eventually going to be like. We have been lucky enough to receive non-dilutive funding up until this point, and I think our intention moving forward will be to fundraise, but we're lucky to have made it this far, how we have.
Being impact inventors and entrepreneurs means that your company is part of a bigger vision that you want to see in the world. Can you tell us a little bit about the vision that drives Nexgarden?
Yeah, I think sustainability is one of our main focuses. We want to lessen the impact on global climate change as much as we can, being a privately owned company. We want to, one of our biggest goals within sustainability is a hope to eventually help, one of our biggest goals within sustainability is to convert existing farmland into natural wildlife habitat. And we plan on doing that by helping farmers convert to vertical farming as at least part of their revenue stream, and to take that land that you're essentially moving indoors and make it usable to wildlife and essentially a part of a larger carbon sequestration project.
Alongside our sustainability intentions, we really want to work to have a big social impact. The eventual goal with our farms is to actually franchise them. So we want other people to be able to have access to successful and valuable businesses. So we hope to be able to provide that opportunity to, people all over the United States and ideally globally, especially in rural areas, and really make all of commercial farming decentralized and support local food systems as the primary way that commercial agriculture operates.
Well, Skylar and Hugh, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share the journey that your company has gone on and that you have gone on, starting with the Cleantech Challenge. We really appreciate it, and best of luck to you as Nexgarden moves into its next stage.
Thank you.
All of the teams are an inspiration, and we can't wait to see what the future holds for these innovators. The teams have now been evaluated by a panel of judges based on their pitch, impact, prototype, and progress. And now the time has come to announce our winners. All of the teams today showed incredible innovation and perseverance. The challenges they faced this year were made even more taxing as they worked through greater restrictions and obstacles. We are proud to announce that the winner of the 2021 Portland State University Cleantech Challenge is Gener8.
Barraza.
Yay! Congratulations, you guys.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited. Sorry, I'm like screaming in your...
That's okay. I'm so glad I finally got to talk to you, Jacob and Crowley.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yay, congratulations, Gener8.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Both first and second place are invited to represent Portland State at the ENTO Where finals in June. They will be competing against students representing 18 colleges and universities, and the opportunity to win $30,000 in prizes. Taking home second place today is Living Education Center. Yay!
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Monse. Congratulations.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much.
And we have one final award to share today. After tallying the votes, the People's Choice Award goes to Fashion in Action, Team FIA.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
So excited.
Congratulations. Thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the achievements of these incredible young entrepreneurs. We are grateful to know that their ideas and innovations are shaping the future. Thank you. See you next year.